Charlotte's Web. Chapter 5 Charlotte. About half an hour before daybreak Wilbur woke up and began to listen. It was still dark in the barn. The sheep slept deeply. Even the goose was quiet. There was little movement at the main building overhead, the cows were resting and the horses were napping. Templeton was also missing, probably working elsewhere. There was only a slight sound on the roof of the barn, as the weathercocks swayed back and forth in the wind. Wilbur liked the barn very much at this time, everything was so quiet and peaceful, just waiting for the dawn to come. Day is coming, he thought. A glimmer of light filtered in through the small window. The stars went out one after another. Wilbur could now clearly see the goose a few steps away. Her head was hidden under her wings. Then he could also see the sheep and lambs clearly. It's daybreak. Oh, beautiful day, it has come at last. Today I will find friends. Wilbur searched everywhere. He searched the house. He checked the windowsill and looked at the ceiling. But no new changes were found. Finally, he decided to shout. Although he was reluctant to use his voice to break the lovely dawn silence, he could think of no other way to find the mysterious new friend who was nowhere to be seen. So Wilbur cleared his throat. Please pay attention. He said in a particularly loud voice, please give me a sign or a signal from the gentleman or lady who was friendly to me when I went to bed last night. Wilbur stopped and listened. The other animals looked up and stared at him. Wilbur blushed. But he was still determined to find this strange friend. Please note, he said. I'll repeat it again. Please ask the friend who I had a cordial conversation with before going to bed last night to come out and speak. Please tell me where you are, if you are my friend. The sheep exchanged expressions of disgust. Stop talking nonsense, Wilbur, said the oldest sheep. If you have a new friend here, you're interfering with his rest, and waking him up before he's ready to get up in the morning is the quickest way to break up a friendship. Are you sure your friend likes to get up early? Everyone, please forgive me, Wilbur's voice dropped. I don't want to disturb anyone. He lay down aggrievedly, facing the door. He hadn't expected to disturb anyone, but if his friend had been nearby, he would have heard it. Maybe Lao Yang is right, this friend hasn't woken up yet. Soon Lu Wei came to deliver breakfast. Wilbur rushed out and ate all the food in a hurry, and licked the trough all over. The sheep headed toward the path, followed by the waddling gander. Just as Wilbur was about to lie down for a good night's sleep, he heard the same noise from last night again. Salute, said the voice. Wilbur jumped to his feet. To what? He asked. Salute, the voice repeated. What does that mean, and where are you? Screamed Wilbur. Please, tell me where you are. And what does salute mean? A salute is a greeting, the voice said. When I say tribute, it's like saying hello or good morning to you. Actually, it's a stupid way of saying it. I wonder why I just used such a word. Do you want to know where I am? That's easy. Look at the upper corner of the door frame. I'm here. Look, I'm waving. Wilbur finally found such a friendly animal to talk to. There was a large spider web hanging above the door frame, and a big grey spider was hanging upside down on the top of the web. She was only the size of a gumdrop. She had 8 legs, and she was using one of them to greet Wilbur in a friendly way. See me now? She asked. Oh, yes indeed, said Wilbur. Yes indeed. How are you? Good morning. Salutations. Very pleased to meet you. What is your name, please? May I have your name? My name, said the spider, is Charlotte. Charlotte what? Asked Wilbur, eagerly. Charlotte a Cavatica. But just call me Charlotte. I think you're beautiful, said Wilbur. Well, I am pretty, replied Charlotte. There's no denying that. Almost all spiders are rather nice looking. I'm not as flashy as some, but I'll do. I wish I could see you, Wilbur, as clearly as you can see me. Why can't you? Asked the pig. I'm right here. Yes, but I'm nearsighted, replied Charlotte. I've always been dreadfully nearsighted. It's good in some ways, not so good in others. Watch me wrap up this fly. A fly that had been crawling along Wilbur's trough had flown up and blundered into the lower part of Charlotte's web and was tangled in the sticky threads. The fly was beating its wings furiously, trying to break loose and free itself. First, said Charlotte, I dive at him. She plunged headfirst toward the fly. As she dropped, a tiny silken thread unwound from her rear end. Next, I wrap him up. She grabbed the fly, threw a few jets of silk around it, and rolled it over and over, wrapping it so that it couldn't move. Wilbur watched in horror. He could hardly believe what he was seeing, and although he detested flies, he was sorry for this one. There, said Charlotte. Now I knock him out, so he'll be more comfortable. She bit the fly. He can't feel a thing now, she remarked. He'll make a perfect breakfast for me. You mean you eat flies? Gasped Wilbur. Certainly. Flies, bugs, grasshoppers, choice beetles, moths, butterflies, tasty cockroaches, gnats, midges, daddy-long-legs, centipedes, mosquitoes, crickets, anything that is careless enough to get caught in my web. I have to live, don't I? Why, yes, of course, said Wilbur. Do they taste good? Delicious. Of course, I don't really eat them. I drink their blood. I love blood, said Charlotte, and her pleasant, thin voice grew even thinner and more pleasant. Don't say that, groaned Wilbur. Please don't say things like that. Why not? It's true, and I have to say what is true. I am not entirely happy about my diet of flies and bugs, but it's the way I'm made. A spider has to pick up a living somehow or other, and I happen to be a trapper. I just naturally build a web and trap flies and other insects. My mother was a trapper before me. Her mother was a trapper before her. All our family have been trappers. Way back for thousands and thousands of years, we spiders have been laying for flies and bugs. It's a miserable inheritance, said Wilbur, gloomily. He was sad because his new friend was so bloodthirsty. Yes, it is, agreed Charlotte. But I can't help it. I don't know how the first spider in the early days of the world happened to think up this fancy idea of spinning a web, but she did, and it was clever of her, too. And since then, all of us spiders have had to work the same trick. It's not a bad pitch, on the whole. It's cruel, replied Wilbur, who did not intend to be argued out of his position. Well, you can't talk, said Charlotte. You have your meals brought to you in a pail. Nobody feeds me. I have to get my own living. I live by my wits. I have to be sharp and clever, lest I go hungry. I have to think things out, catch what I can, take what comes. And it just so happens, my friend, that what comes is flies and insects and bugs. And furthermore, said Charlotte, shaking one of her legs. Do you realize that if I didn't catch bugs and eat them, bugs would increase and multiply and get so numerous that they'd destroy the earth, wipe out everything? Really? Said Wilbur. I wouldn't want that to happen. Perhaps your web is a good thing after all. The goose had been listening to this conversation and chuckling to herself. There are a lot of things Wilbur doesn't know about life, she thought. He's really a very innocent little pig. He doesn't even know what's going to happen to him around Christmas time. He has no idea that Mr. Zuckerman and Lurvy are plotting to kill him. And the goose raised herself a bit and poked her eggs a little further under her so that they would receive the full heat from her warm body and soft feathers. Charlotte paused quietly above the fly for a while, ready to eat it. Wilbur quickly closed his eyes and lay down. He didn't sleep well last night, and the excitement of meeting new friends for the first time made him feel extremely tired. The breeze carried the scent of alfalfa to him, the world outside his fence was filled with sweet scents. Very good, he thought, I have a new friend, which is great. But what a dangerous friendship. Charlotte is fierce, Cruel, cunning, bloodthirsty, I don't like any of these. Although she is so cute, of course, and smart, but how could I bring myself to even try to like her? Wilbur, like those who make new friends, was surrounded by suspicion and fear. Later, he will find that he has misunderstood Charlotte. In fact, under her terrifying and cold appearance, she has a kind heart. What happens in the future will prove that she is loyal and sincere to her friends, every moment. Chapter 6 Summer Days. The early summer days on a farm are the happiest and fairest days of the year. Lilacs bloom and make the air sweet, and then fade. Apple blossoms come with the lilacs, and the bees visit around among the apple trees. The days grow warm and soft. School ends, and children have time to play and to fish for trouts in the brook. Avery often brought a trout home in his pocket, warm and stiff and ready to be fried for supper. Now that school was over, Fern visited the barn almost every day, to sit quietly on her stool. The animals treated her as an equal. The sheep lay calmly at her feet. Around the 1st of July, the work horses were hitched to the mowing machine, and Mr. Zuckerman climbed into the seat and drove into the field. All morning you could hear the rattle of the machine as it went round and round, while the tall grass fell down behind the cutter bar in long green swathes. Next day, if there was no thunder shower, all hands would help rake and pitch and load, and the hay would be hauled to barn in the high hay wagon, with Fern and Avery riding at the top of the load. Then the hay would be hoisted, sweet and warm, into the big loft, until the whole barn seemed like a wonderful bed of timothy and clover. It was fine to jump in, and perfect to hide in. And sometimes Avery would find a little grass snake in the hay, and would add it to the other things in his pocket. Early summer days are a jubilee time for birds. In the fields, around the house, in the barn, in the woods, in the swamp, everywhere love and songs and nests and eggs. From the edge of the woods, the white-throated sparrow, which must come all the way from Boston, calls, "Oh, Peabody, Peabody, Peabody." On an apple bough10, the phoebe teeters and wags its tail and says, "Phoebe, Phoebe." The song sparrow, who knows how brief and lovely life is, says, "Sweet, sweet, sweet interlude, sweet, sweet, sweet interlude." If you enter the barn, the swallows swoop down from their nests and scold. "Cheeky, cheeky," they say. In early summer there are plenty of things for a child to eat and drink and suck and chew. Dandelion stems are full of milk, clover heads are loaded with nectar, the Frigidaire is full of ice-cold drinks. Everywhere you look is life, even the little ball of spit on the weed stalk, if you poke it apart, has a green worm inside it. And on the underside of the leaf of the potato vine are the bright orange eggs of the potato bug. It was on a day in early summer that the goose eggs hatched. This was an important event in the barn cellar. Fern was there, sitting on her stool, when it happened. Except for the goose herself, Charlotte was the first to know that the goslings had at last arrived. The goose knew a day in advance that they were coming. She could hear their weak voices calling from inside the egg. She knew that they were coming. She knew that they were in a desperately cramped position inside the shell and were most anxious to break through and get out. So she sat quite still, and talked less than usual. When the first gosling poked its grey-green head through the goose's feathers and looked around, Charlotte spied it and made the announcement. "I am sure," she said, "that every one of us here will be gratified to learn that after 4 weeks of unremitting effort and patience on the part of our friend the goose, she now has something to show for it. The goslings have arrived. May I offer my sincere congratulations?" "Thank you, thank you, thank you," said the goose, nodding and bowing shamelessly. "Thank you," said the gander. "Congratulations!" shouted Wilbur. "How many goslings are there?" "I can only see one." "There are 7, said the goose. "Fine," said Charlotte. 7 is a lucky number." "Luck had nothing to do with this," said the goose. "It was good management and hard work." At this point, Templeton showed his nose from his hiding place under Wilbur's trough. He glanced at Fern, then crept cautiously toward the goose, keeping close to the wall. Everyone watched him, for he was not well liked, not trusted. Look, he began in his sharp voice, you say you have 7 goslings. There were 8 eggs. What happened to the other egg? Why didn't it hatch? It's a dud, I guess, said the goose. What are you going to do with it? Continued Templeton, his little round beady eyes fixed on the goose. You can have it, replied the goose. Roll it away and add it to that nasty collection of yours. Templeton had a habit of picking up unusual objects around the farm and storing them in his home. He saved everything. Certainly, said the gander. You may have the egg. But I'll tell you one thing, Templeton, if I ever catch you poking your ugly nose around our goslings, I'll give you the worst pounding a rat ever took. And the gander opened his strong wings and beat the air with them to show his power. He was strong and brave, but the truth is, both the goose and the gander were worried about Templeton. And with good reason. The rat had no morals, no conscience, no scruples, no consideration, no decency, no milk of rodent kindness, no compunctions, no higher feeling, no friendliness, no anything. He would kill a gosling if he could get away with it. The goose knew that. Everybody knew it. With her broad bill, the goose pushed the unhatched egg out of the nest, and the entire company watched in disgust while the rat rolled it away. Even Wilbur, who could eat almost anything, was appalled. Imagine wanting a junky old rotten egg. He muttered. A rat is a rat, said Charlotte. She laughed a tinkling little laugh. But, my friends, if that ancient egg ever breaks, this barn will be untenable. What's that mean? Asked Wilbur. It means nobody will be able to live here on account of the smell. A rotten egg is a regular stink bomb. I won't break it, snarled Templeton. I know what I'm doing. I handle stuff like this all the time. He disappeared into his tunnel, pushing the goose egg in front of him. He pushed and nudged till he succeeded in rolling it to his lair under the trough. That afternoon, when the wind had died down and the barnyard was quiet and warm, the grey goose let her 7 goslings off the nest and out into the world. Mr. Zucherman spied them when he came with Wilbur's supper. Well, hello there, he said, smiling all over. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 baby geese. Now isn't that lovely?